ನಿಲ್ಸಿದ್ವಿ. My slides visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think in the previous class, I think we had discussed about this digital links, right? We had started.
Yes, sir. Cover ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ.
Is multiplexing ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ ಅನ್ಕೋತೀನಿ. Point to point link also. Configuration and link power budget. Link power budget ಮಾಡಿದ್ನಾ? ಹಾ. So ರೈಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಡ್ಜೆಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ? ರೈಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಡ್ಜೆಟ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತಾ? Okay, anyhow, even though it's finished, I'll just glance up and I'll go further. So, raise time budget. So, in the previous class, we had discussed about digital links, wherein we have discussed link power budget and also the previous system configuration, point-to-point links, system architecture, and all those things. So, next comes your rise time budget. So, this rise time budget basically it gives a general information about the initial system design. So, we need to know this rise time in order to design the system. Okay, so wherein you might ask me, oh, the rise time, what it gives. So basically it is going to determine the dispersion limitation of your optical fiber link. Okay, the dispersion limitation of your optical fiber link. So the fiber link that means it is the cumulative sum of, see, the total rise time, it will be just like the cumulative sum, that is the root sum square of rise time of each contributor. That means it is if the fiber is for a longer distance, then each and every thing, there are different chances for this thing. What I can say is dispersion this thing. So overall you'll be considering. So that's why it is the root sum square of square of the rise time. So TR1 is the first one due to R1, due to R2, TR3 is due to R3. So totally the rise time, there is a thesis which is will be equal to I runs from 1 to n TRI the whole square to the power of 1 by 2. Okay. So here, as I already mentioned, this back return loss. We are discussing the previous chapter, the return loss topics, right? So there you might know that few light, even though it get back to the normal normal. That means it gets returned back to the fiber, even though the incident light moves further, some part of the light moves backward. Okay. Here we know that the light source and the detector, it will be having a finite response time to the input. So all the devices does not turn on or turn off instantly. Okay. Is rise time and fall time. Basically, this rise time and fall time, it is going to determine the overall response hence the resulting bandwidth. So in the previous case, there is a link budget. We have considered the losses incurred due to this connectors, splices, and all these things. But here in this case, we are not supposed to consider those things. The losses due to connector, couplers, and splices. It need not to be taken into account. Okay, but okay. There are four basic elements that contribute to rise time. One is the transmitter time. One is GVD, that is a group velocity dispersion. And the third one is modal dispersion rise time, and the fourth one is the receiver rise time. So finally, so rise time, it is given by, it is a sum of all these things. So transmitter modulation, that is a GVD, group velocity dispersion, and receiving. So finally, it is the square sum of all these things. So but T mod is given by 440 by BM. So BM is what? The bandwidth. So bandwidth is given by B naught. B naught is what? It is the bandwidth of 1 kilometer length. So what is the length? Length is the L. L will be the length. If you had just got a length, if it has got a length of 10 kilometers, for example, we have to consider 10. So for 1 kilometer, the bandwidth is this much. Q is the parameter of the fiber. Usually it ranges from what I say is 0.5 to 1. That is one. And TGVD, that is the group velocity dispersion, that is given by d square rho square L square. So d is the dispersion. This rho is the half power spectral width of the source length. L being the length. Okay. So similarly, your front end, that is a TRX, it is given by 350 by BRX. So BRX is a 3 dB bandwidth of the receiver. So finally, this above equation, it can be rewritten as this thing, and if you substitute here, you will get this. So finally, the system bandwidth, it is given by 0.35 by T6. T6 is the rise time. Line coding. I already think maybe for your class or the previous class, I don't know. I think you people have studied in digital communication. Anyhow, this I just go through the things. So basically, what is the line code? What is the line code? What is the line code? So you will be converting signal to a digital form, and those signals, you can't send the signals as it is generated. Okay, you need to do some modification, and you need to arrange the signal system in a specific pattern, so that it can be easily recognized at the other end. It can be easily recognized at the other end. Fine. So this line coding introduces redundancy. What is this redundancy? What is this redundancy? What is this redundant bit? Huh? Redundant bits are the extra bits that is added to the what you can to the message signal. Okay. So what is the role of this redundancy? Redundant bits. So you have already done in your computer networks, right? So what is that? For example, if you consider what is that bit stuffing and byte stuffing, all those things, what you do there, you'll be stuffing the adding one a day bit or a byte based upon your requirement, right? Similarly, why you are going to add those redundant bits in order to minimize the error, minimize the error. Okay, and at the same time, we are going to minimize the error and also see that faithful transmission is possible. So here we have three different lines of code. So this is with respect to the textbooks which has been mentioned earlier, but there are few more techniques of line codes, which is non-return to zero, return to zero, phase encoded is what I have mentioned here. Whereas in other thing is split matches and all those things are there, which is there in your Shyam Shanmugam textbook. You can refer for that. So what are the design properties of your line codes? That the line code should possess your timing information. What is this timing information? That means each and every bit will be given a particular time. So at that particular time, you will be given to represent that bit, either 0 or 1. So how that 0 or 1 will be represented, that is what we need to know. We need to know by line code. Okay. So this line code must be immune to channel noise and interference. That is the one more requirement the line code has. And at the same time, this line code, it should allow error detection and the correction. Error detection and the correction. First, let us take up NRZ code. So what is this NRZ code? Non-return to zero. So the name itself is non-return to zero. So each bit will be represented either 0 or 1. So for 0, what we do here is in this type, we are going to take 0 as the bit which is in lower state or the 0 state, you can say. So if you want, you can take it to the higher state. So 1 will be represented for the higher level, or as what I can say is 5 volts, like 0 volts or 5 volts, you mentioned right in the digital code in that way. So yeah, different types of NR codes are there. There is NRZ level is the one form. So it is a unipolar code. What is this unipolar code means? Sorry, it is an unpolar code. So that means it is either on-off type, whether it will be on. It is 1 if the bit is transmitted bit is 1, or it is 0 when it is transmitted 0. So like this. So here you can see this an example for the bit sequence 01011 00101. How the graph is being represented. So here you can see off level and on level. So for 0 you will be representing with off, whereas 1 you will be representing with high level. So there is no intermediate state. So as and when your data is switching from one level to the other level, that is from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, there is a transition from higher to lower or lower to higher. From 0 to 1, if it is a transmission, then there is a transition from 0 to 1. Okay. Similarly, here, whenever there is a transition from 1 to 0, then again, here there will be transition from 1 to 0. Suppose if successive 1 comes, then what? It won't come to 0 and again it is going to start later. But it is going to be continuous. It is going to be continuous. 1, 1. So for 0, it is again a continuous. This is what your NRZ level. So what are the features of this NRZ level? So it is they are very simple to generate and also decode. As you all know, 0 it is just like a on off keying, right? For 1 it will be representing this 1 will be representing as high and 0 will be representing as low. That is what simple. And here no timing information. No timing information is required, and no error monitoring or corresponding capabilities. NRZ code requires minimum bandwidth. Okay, so that is what here redundancy also will be very less. That is what your NRZ. RZ code is it is a written to that code. It is in this unipolar RZ data pattern. One will be represented here only for half of the cycle. Half of the cycle, half of the cycle, and rest of the cycle it returns back to the zero level. Zero level. But whereas a 1 bit, 0 bit will be represented continuously 0 volts or under lower state. So this figure shows this RZ data pattern. Fine. Here you can see for the same sequence how this RZ code is going to be represented. RZ is represented. Fine. For 0, it will be okay. For RZ, for 0 it will be continuous 0, whereas for 1, half of the cycle will be I, and it will be I state. Then after half of the bit period, again it drops to the 0 level and it ceases to the next bit. So it is 0. So again it returns into 0. So again it is 1 where again it switches from 0 to I level, and again for half of the after the duration, it drops down, and it continues to be in the low level. Like this, it is going to take place. So further, when there is a successive zeros, when there is successive ones, what happens? It is just like half of the bit will be high and again it will be low, and again it will be high and low. Whereas for successive zero, it will be continuous 0. This is how whatever RZ unipolar code takes place. So next, this feature of RZ code. RZ code that is the signal transition between your bit period provides the timing information. The signal transition during I bit period provides the timing duration. So that is the one thing. But the disadvantage is if there are successive zeros, then what happens at that time? It is going to cause loss of uh, timing sequence, timing synchronization problem, because it is a success. So it is difficult for us to see that synchronization. So that's the reason you might have seen that if you have got successive ones in NRZ is a problem. But here, if it is a successive one, successive zero, again it is a problem here. Error correction. So the data transmission reliability of a communication basically it can be improved. So if you want to rely on any communication system, we need to see that it should be error free, right? So how to achieve this error free? It is through your sorry. It is through there are two different schemes. One is the automatic repeat request, that is ARQ. Okay, and the other one is forward error correction. So what is this ARQ scheme? So can anyone interpret this diagram and tell me? Because already you people have studied about this in your computer networks. Can anyone of you interpret? Anyone can interpret? Okay, leave. If you're not interested in this thing, then So in this ARQ scheme, what is this? Automatic repeat request. So automatic repeat request means what? Here, what happens here is you can see whatever the information source, right? That word we have given, that will be coded and with the sufficient redundant bits. Okay, so that detection of errors will be easy at the receiving end. So that will be sent and it will be encoded, and again further it is being transmitted at the decoder. It is again decoded. Okay, once decoded at the receiving end, you might see that due to this, what is that? You might come across with an error. You might come across with an error. For example, if I use a parity bit like even parity or odd parity, which is the simplest one I'm telling you. So if you consider that, you might come across that there is an error. So at that time, what happens? You will be sending a feedback saying that whatever that data that I have received, it is not correct. So please do send once again. So again, it is going to retransmit. So, but you might see that how much time you need to wait. So till the information, whatever it is at the receiving end, right? So the information that you send at the receiving from the receiving, it has to read the transmitting end, and at the same time there it has to process, and again it is. So it is one complete cycle you need to wait. Instead, what you can do, there are different techniques which you already, I think, have gone through in your computer networks, or you might go through in future, where here, this if this is a block, in the to the previous block is going to discard the message only. So whatever the information is being sent here the it is going to check the information. If it is correct, then it sends it. If it is wrong, it is going to tell the previous block, just a single block, so that if any error occurs, only from one block to one block. At time last, it will be only from one block to other block, not from the overall delay. So that's the reason it will be advantageous. That is one sort of advantages. So it takes the information from the previous block once, and at the same time it receives and it acknowledges that I have received. Then the previous block is going to delete that message. In simple terms, I can say it is going to discard that message. So in the same way, here receiver, once it receives the messages, it is going to check for the correctness. If it is received correct, fine. Then it is going to send an acknowledgement. Then the previous block is going to discard. Else, it is going to resend the same information to the receiver, so that again, if it receives correctly, then it is going to send an acknowledgement saying that I have received correct one. If not, it is going to say that I have not received, so retransmit. So this is how it works in this diagram. So here you need to see that each retransmission, it is going to add up one round time of delay. That is what I was telling you, right? One round time of delay. One second. So therefore, AR techniques are not used where low latency is desirable, due to which it is not being used everywhere. So it is being only used ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ಪೀಡ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಮೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ಆರಾಮಾಗಿ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ, there you will be using. So if you are using it very correctly and if you want it very fast, at that time you can't. Maybe for your laboratory purposes and other things you can make use, but for quick responses where it is required in the field, there you will not be using this. Next one. So forward error correction. So here again, what is this forward error correction? What is this forward correction? So forward error corrections, it is going to add redundant information with the original information to be transmitted. So here the error or the lost data it used reconstructed by using redundant bits. So by seeing the redundant bits, it is going to do the correction there. So since you are adding redundant bits, so much additional bandwidth is not that much required. So you will be using only small redundant bit. Okay. So most commonly are error correcting codes, CRC, all these things, cyclic redundancy code, all these things you are right. So whenever you want highest level of data integrity and confidentiality, FEC, that is a forward error correction, is considered. There will not make use of ARQ and other things. So at that time you will be using this FEC. Fine. Okay. Next is sources of power penalty. This optical receiver sensitivity, it is affected due to many factors like fiber dispersion, signal to noise ratio, and all those things, right? So major major cause for the signal to get degrade are the receiver sensitivity or modal noise. So what is this modal noise? So that is, there will be in my, if you consider a multi-mode, here you will be having many signals propagating. So there you will be one second. As the name itself tells you, multi-mode. So you will be having mode. So those different signals will be propagating, so that there will be some sort of interference. Due to the interference, there will be some fluctuations, which results in the fluctuation, which is called as the modal noise. Modal noise. Okay. That is one modal noise, and the other one is dispersive pulse broadening. Pulse broadening and mode partition noise. So the pulse broadening, which we have discussed in the previous chapter itself, mode partition noise, frequency chirping, reflection feedback noise. So here this is a diagram which is shown, that is a modal noise. It is very serious with respect to your semiconductor lasers. Okay, here in this diagram it shows a power penalty versus mode selective loss with a different ratio for the given data. What is that given data? That is, the bit error rate will be 10 to the power of -2. The lambda will be 1.3 micrometer micro. B will be, that is, the bit rate will be 140. Once again. So it is 140 megabits per second, and the fiber that we are going to use is DIN, which is 550 micrometer. Here you can see as your modal noise, that is a mode selective loss, is plotted against power parity. It is going to be decreasing as your mode selective loss is considered. That is what for different M. So next is the dispersive pulse broadening. So what is this dispersive pulse broadening? So as you all know, okay, dispersion. Why this dispersion takes place? Due to many things which we have already discussed, like material. One is a material thing. So the receiver sensitivity, it will be getting degraded by group velocity dispersion. So basically, this it is going to limit the dispersivity is mainly due to the material and property and external factors like temperature and all those things. So which you already discussed. So which is going to limit. So that's why I have not mentioned those things. So it is going to limit the bitrate distant product. So by broadening the optical pulse. Okay, so here intersymbol interference going to exist due to the spreading of pulse. Once spreading takes place, so interference obviously it takes place. Fine. So with which once intersymbol interference decreases, what happens? So there will be a decrease in the pulse energy. Once if there is a decrease in the pulse energy, it takes place, then obviously signal to noise ratio will be getting reduced at the receiving end. That is the detector circuit. So this diagram shows you the power penalty versus the dispersion parameter. So how it is just like a exponential curve. Next is mode partition noise. So this mode partition noise basically it is associated with uh, intensity fluctuation. So why this intensity fluctuation takes place? There are so many factors. Different what is that layout? That is the intensity fluctuation that takes place in the longitudinal modes of your multi-mode laser. So where your side modes are not sufficiently suppressed. That means you, as your rays are passing, the light ray is going to pass. It will be dominated through a noise, which is occurs due to many parameters, like maybe the material or all those things. Okay, that is what. So in the previous thing, we discussed the modal noise that is results due to the interference, right? So here, this mode partition, it is due to the longitudinal mode fluctuation. So these multi-mode fibers, if the fibers move, so this longitudinal mode, it is going to fluctuate, with which the intensity is going to remain constant. So this creates the mode partition noise. As a result, all the unsynchronized and it is going to create fluctuation, which is going to again reduce the signal to noise ratio at the receiving end. So this is what with respect to the diagram you can see with the k value, it is the thing. If it is decreases, your power penalty also decreases with respect to the increase in the dispersion parameter. Next comes your chirping. What is this frequency chirping? Frequency chirping is basically, we call it as the change in the carrier frequency. Change in the carrier frequency. A the change in the carrier frequency due to the change in the refractive index. So here, if whenever the refractive index changes, there will be a change in the carrier frequency. Carrier frequency that we call it as a frequency chirp. Due to this chirping, frequency chirping, you can see optical pulse. It is going to get broadened and it is going to degrade your system performance. Okay. Here, it is shown in the figure. Here also you can see as the value decreases, your dispersion parameter, the power penalty will be minimized. Okay. Next is the reflection feedback. So this is already we have discussed, that is a return loss. So here in this chapter, basically already we have studied the concepts. So when you consider a system as a whole, what are the things that we need to look into? That is what the major thing. So if you consider an analog link, what happens? If you consider a digital link, what happens? So that is what we need here. We are looking into. So even everything we have studied, but here we need to see that how all those things will be interrelated. Fine. So the reflection feedback, the light may reflect due to the reflective uh, index. It is due to the discontinuity at splices. So that means when splicing are being done, there are chances that discontinuity takes place due to mismatch in their index, refractive index, or mismatch, or might be that it is not properly spliced. Something, there are so many issues, right? And connectors. So these reflections at that time it is going to get return loss will be there. So these reflections are unintentional. So which nobody likes to do get it done, but due to practical problems and the errors that occur due to splicing and connection be not done properly. So that is going to degrade your performance considerably. So finally, that it is given by reflective. Its reflectivity it is given by Rf is equal to Nf minus 1 the whole square divided by Nf plus 1 the whole square, where Nf is the refractive index of the fiber materials. So this reflection can be minimized. How? So already by using index matching gel. Index matching gel at interference. So when spacing is being done, you need to know that. And many things we have studied have different types, right? So there, if you use a correct gel, it is get a return. Sorry, it is gel. If you pour a proper gel, which is going to match the refractive index between two cut fibers, so that these reflections can be minimized. Next is relative intensity. This I think we have discussed in unlog links, alva? The same thing. So with which we'll be covering the topic. Okay. Error corrections is there. Erection correction we will already have studied in distance, so we'll not be taking at this part. Okay. Any doubts here? Any doubts still here?